The council fire cracked loud in the dark. Every face turned toward the two widows who stood at its edge, backs straight, eyes wet but not falling. Little Rain felt the whole camp staring at her like she was already a stranger. Someone in the crowd laughed, sharp and cruel, and a woman near the fire spat on the ground at her feet. Little Rain did not flinch. She did not bow her head. Instead, she reached down, picked up a handful of dry dust from that very spot, and rubbed it slow across her own cheeks, like war paint, like mourning paint, right there in front of everyone. The camp went silent. An old man frowned. "She mocks us," he muttered. But she did not. Blue Sparrow understood first, and she knelt beside her sister-in-law and did the same, marking her face with dust from the ground where they had just been spat on. It was an old sign, older than the false witness standing smug near Vane's man. A sign that said, "You can send us away, but you cannot make us feel shame we did not earn." The council elder, gray-haired and tired-eyed, stepped forward. "Little Rain, Blue Sparrow, the law says 1 year. You will leave before the sun sets tomorrow." "We know the law," Little Rain said, voice steady. "We only wonder who wrote the lie inside it." A few elders shifted, uneasy, like the question had landed somewhere true, but no one answered her. The false witness looked at his boots. That night the two women packed what little they owned onto one tired mule. A rifle, a blanket, dried meat wrapped in cloth. No one came to say goodbye except one small girl, who pressed a carved wooden bird into Little Rain's hand and ran off before anyone could scold her. At dawn, the widows walked out past the last tent, past the dry creek, past the fence line where their husbands died, and into land that belonged to no one now, land wide, silent, and full of danger neither woman could yet name. By the fourth night, Little Rain's lips were cracked and Blue Sparrow could barely stand. The storm had torn their shelter apart, and the creek they hoped to find was only cracked mud. Little Rain sank to her knees, gripping the small wooden bird the girl had given her, and for the first time since the fire, she let herself cry. A twig snapped behind them. Blue Sparrow spun, rifle raised, hands shaking from hunger. "Easy," a low voice said. "I ain't looking for trouble." A cowboy stepped into the moonlight, hands open and empty. His coat was worn thin, his boots caked in old mud. He did not come closer. He simply crouched down, slow and careful, and set a canteen on a flat rock between them. "Name's Jesse Cole," he said. "There's water in there, and I got a fire going just over that rise if you want it." Blue Sparrow did not lower the rifle. "Why help us?" Jesse looked at the ground for a moment like the question cost him something. "Lost my own kin 2 winters back. Sickness took 'em. Nobody helped me then. Reckon I know what that feels like." Little Rain studied his face in the dark and saw no lie in it. She nodded once. Blue Sparrow lowered the rifle slow. They followed him to his fire. By morning, Jesse offered to guide them toward the town of Widow's Creek. They had walked only 2 hours when Blue Sparrow froze and pointed toward the ridge. Riders. 5 of them moving slow, rifles across their saddles. "Vane's men," Jesse whispered. "Get down now." He shoved both women into a narrow crack between 2 boulders and stood in front of it, casual, like a man just passing through. His heart hammered as the riders slowed beside him. "Seen any Apache women out this way?" one rider called. Jesse shrugged. "Seen nothing but dust and my own sorry shadow." The riders studied him a long moment, then rode on. Only when the dust settled did Jesse let out the breath he'd been holding and turn back toward the rocks where the 2 widows waited, silent and afraid. In Widow's Creek, an old trader leaned close to Jesse and lowered his voice. "That witness who spoke against them widows. He used to ride for Vane. Fired last spring, but before that worked his ranch for years." Jesse said nothing, but his jaw tightened. He rode to the tribal camp alone, no weapon drawn, hands loose at his sides. Guards stopped him at the edge. "State your business, stranger." "I ain't here to argue," Jesse said. "Just here to ask questions, that's all." The oldest elder studied him a long while before waving him through. Jesse asked simple things: who paid the witness, who benefited if the widows left. The elder's face grew tight, troubled. I always wondered, she admitted quietly, why Vane smiled so wide the day they were sent away. I had no proof, only a feeling. I aimed to find proof, Jesse said. That night he rode to Vane's ranch and slipped into the dark barn, breath held, boots silent on the straw. He found a ledger tucked behind a feed sack, names, dates, payments to the false witness. Letters, too, in Vane's own hand, spelling out a plan to seize the shared land once the tribe and the widows were split apart. Jesse's hands shook as he stuffed the papers inside his coat. A lantern flared behind him. "Well now," Vane's foreman said, cocking his rifle, "look what crawled in." Jesse turned slow, hands raised, heart slamming against his ribs. "Easy," Jesse said, "I was just. Save it for the boss." They dragged him across the yard and threw him into a storage shed, bolting the door hard. Jesse sat in the dark, ribs aching from a fist to the gut, blood on his lip. He pressed a hand against his coat, feeling the shape of the ledger still hidden inside. The truth was right there against his chest. But the door was locked, his horse was gone, and outside he heard Vane's voice, cold and pleased, telling his men, "Deal with him quiet. Come morning there won't be no stranger left to talk." A soft scrape came at the shed door. Jesse tensed in the dark, ready for Vane's men to finish what they'd started. Instead, the bolt slid free. Little Rain stood in the gap, moonlight behind her. "You are hard to track, Cowboy." Blue Sparrow was already easing past a fallen guard, the man crumpled and groaning near the fence post. "He will wake with a headache," she said. "Nothing more." Jesse stumbled out, ribs screaming. "You shouldn't have come, it's too dangerous." "You came for us," Little Rain said simply. "Now we come for you." She reached into his coat, careful, and pulled out the ledger, still creased and blood-smeared from his fall. Her eyes moved over Vane's own handwriting, and something hard settled in her face. They rode through the night, 3 horses pounding across dark land, until the tribal camp rose up before them in the gray light of dawn. The council was already gathering, word having spread. Vane arrived moments later, red-faced, expecting silence, expecting fear. He got neither. Little Rain walked straight to the fire and laid the ledger open before the elders. "Read it," she said. "Read what he paid for. Read what he planned to steal." The oldest elder read slowly, her face darkening with every line. She looked up at Vane. "You bought a lie to break a peace we built with blood and years." Vane sputtered. "That paper proves nothing." "It proves everything," Little Rain said, voice steady as stone. Vane's own foreman, the one who'd locked Jesse in the shed, stepped back from him now, shaking his head. "I ain't hanging for your lies, Vane." He said no more. He simply walked away, leaving Vane alone as guards closed in. The elders reversed the exile that morning, right there by the fire. Little Rain and Blue Sparrow were welcomed home, whole and cleared of any wrong. Jesse, bruised but standing, was asked to stay a while, not as a hero, but as a friend who had helped find a hidden truth. That evening, the 3 of them sat by the same fire where the story once turned dark, and for the first time in many days, no one felt afraid.